The proof of any learning is practice. Yes, the proof of any learning is practice. And everything improves with practice. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining us again on another exciting Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. I am Mr. Upgrade. I am super excited to have you join us again on another exciting Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. Now, this is what we do every Sundays from 8 p.m. from 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. Yes, 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. And basically, we get to do four things. Yes, we got to do four things on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. Number one is that we're going to take your questions. So if you have any question whatsoever, feel free to send in your questions and we will gladly take them because we get to take your questions, right? Number two, we're going to share with you the Upgrade Mastery tip for the week. And for this week, the Upgrade Mastery tip for this week is practice. Yes, practice. And that's why our opening quote was the proof of any learning is practice. And everything gets better with practice. So the second thing we do is that we share with you the Upgrade Mastery tip for the week. And this week, it's practice. Are you ready for practice? I can't wait for us to get into the conversation on practice. Now, the third thing that we get to do on the Upgrade Live is that we get to connect, network, and bond. Yes. We live in a world of social connections, right? We live in a world where you get to connect with people, you get to network, you get to bond. So it's important that we get to do this while we do the Upgrade Live. So you got to connect with people from around the globe, right? Very important. And then number four is that we got to have fun. Yes. I always say this, that if learning is not fun, then there is no learning at all. So we get to have fun while we do the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. I'm super excited to have you join us here today because this is the place you ought to be at this time. So you can learn how you are going to practice. Because the proof of learning is practice. And the proof of practice is results. Now, on the Upgrade Live, we do something very interesting. And what is it that we do is that we get to take basic 5 questions. Now, these 5 questions help us to lay the foundation so you can have a better understanding of what it is that we're going to be talking about. So with these questions, we just lay the foundation for the conversation. Now, these questions will help you to understand the flow of what it is that we're going to do here today, right? The question will help you understand what the flow is going to be like and what you should expect in the whole conversation. So we're going to start off with the questions for this conversation, which is on practice, right? So the very first question is, what is practice? Now, when you hear the word practice, what is it that comes to your mind? What is practice? You know, a lot of people have so many definitions to practice. What is practice to you? What does practice mean for you? When you hear practice, what does it resonate with you? What is it that comes to your mind when you hear the word practice? Now, you can go ahead and ask ChatGPT or you can Google, but there is this definition that we always share on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade that you will not get anywhere. So one of the things we tell people to do is to pay attention to what we do here. Just pay attention, because when you pay attention, then you can really get the most of what it is that we talk about here. Now, what is practice? What is practice? I'll tell you what practice is from the Upgrade side of life. Now, practice, follow me closely, guys. Follow me closely. Practice, it is the art of doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. I'll say that again. Practice is the art of doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. That is practice. Doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. Now, I love this definition of practice because you're going to see how this affects everything about your life, every little thing about your life. Doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. And the beautiful thing about practice is some people are practicing, they don't even know that they are practicing. Don't worry, we're going to get there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But practice is the act of doing something repeatedly, repeatedly till you attain mastery. Now, that is practice. Now, question number 2. Who is responsible for practice? Now, we know what practice is. The next question is, who then is responsible for practice? Who is responsible for practice? I'll tell you. Very simple. You are. You are responsible for practice. And no one else is responsible for practice but you. You are the one that is responsible for practice. So, whatever it is that you do, you are responsible for practice. Whether you practice, whether you don't practice is entirely up to you. So you are responsible for practice. Now, question number 3. Now, question 1 was what is practice? Question 2 was who's responsible for practice? Now, question 3 is why practice? Why do we have to talk about practice? Why is practice of any significance or any importance in this conversation? Why is practice important in our lives? 3 reasons why. Number 1, consistency. One of the things you gain from practice is consistency. Yes, you attain a certain level and degree of consistency through practice. So why practice? Consistency. Nothing will give you consistency like practice because you keep doing it repeatedly till you attain mastery. So that's consistency there, right? So why practice? Number 1 is consistency. Number 2, why practice is competence. Now, whatever it is you do consistently, you begin to attain competence in that thing. That's the truth. Whatever it is you do consistently, you begin to attain competence in that thing. So, you see what we do right now on the Upgrade Live, we have gained a certain level of competence. So we've been able to move away from Instagram and come on YouTube because we have gained a certain level of competence and it's growing by the day. So that is very important for you to understand. Second reason why practice is competence. The third reason why practice is mastery. Mastery. You must always remember this. Anything you practice, you will gain mastery of that thing. Anything at all you practice, you will gain mastery of that thing. I don't know if you remember while you were still in kindergarten or in primary school, you were taught the multiplication table, right? So you practiced it, you rehearsed it, you sang it, you practiced it. You now gain mastery of the multiplication tables. 2 times 1, 2, 2 times 2, 4, and all of that. You gain mastery because of the practice. So these are 3 reasons why practice. Number 1, consistency. Number 2, competence. Number 3, mastery. If for anything at all you don't want to practice, when you remember these 3 things, it should get you back on your feet to practice. Now, question number 4 is, what are the benefits of practice? What do I stand to gain when I practice? What are the benefits of practice? Now, I'll tell you 3 benefits of practice. 3 simple benefits of practice that would help you in your life journey. Number 1, when you practice, it becomes second nature. When you practice, it becomes second nature. It becomes something that is second nature for you, which means just like you know things subconsciously, you know it from the back of your mind, that you don't have to think about it. It has become second nature for you because of practice. They can wake you up from sleep and you will do that thing excellently well because it has become second nature to you. Just the same way you no longer think about breathing, that's the same way when you practice, the things you practice become second nature to you. You don't even have to think about it. You just get it done. That's one of the benefits of practice. Whatever you practice, it becomes second nature to you. You just do it and you do it well without even thinking about it. Now, the second benefit of practice is that you become an authority and you have dominance in that area. The second reason for practice, the second benefit of practice is that it gives you authority and domination in that particular area. So you become an authority in that field that you practice. You have dominance or domination in that particular field. So you see, people who practice medicine are called the medical practitioners because they've gained a certain level of dominance and authority in that field. People who practice law are called the legal practitioners because they've gained certain authority and dominance in that area of law. So whatever you practice, you will gain authority and domination in that field. Right? So that's the second benefit of practice, authority and domination. Second benefit of practice, you gain authority and domination. And then the third benefit of practice is that is simple: refinement and excellence. Whatever you practice, guess what's happening? That thing is being refined and that thing is becoming excellent. With practice, you gain refinement and excellence. So whatever it is that you practice, good or bad, it's getting refined and it's getting excellent. So that's the third benefit of practice: refinement and excellence. So good or bad, whatever it is you practice, you are gaining refinement and excellence. And this is why you must not take your practice for granted. And now, question number 5. Question number 5. When is the best time to practice? When is the best time to practice? And I always tell people this: the last best time to practice was yesterday. The next best time to practice is now. Now is the next best time to practice. Now the question is, are you ready to practice? Are you ready to practice? That's the question right now. And not just are you ready to practice, what are you going to practice? What are you going to practice? What are you going to practice? Very important. What are you going to practice? Because the truth is, we all are practicing something. We all are practicing something. So what are you ready to practice? Now let's get into practice. Let's get into practice so you can understand it the way it really is. When we're talking about this, some people don't really get what we're talking about. So let's break practice down so that you can understand it. Right? Yeah, someone said earlier that when you practice, it becomes second nature. So true. Now let's break practice down. Now type the word practice, 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 right? Let's break the word practice down. Let's break it down so that you can really understand it. Let's break it down so you can get it. Practice, practice, right? Let's go. Now, the P in practice is preparation. The popular saying is that prayerful preparation prevents poor performance, right? Prayerful preparation prevents poor performance. Now, the truth of the matter is this. The truth of the matter is this. Follow me closely, guys. Whatever it is that you are practicing, guess what? It is preparing you. It is a preparation stage for you. And you've always heard people say that it is always best that you are prepared and the opportunity doesn't come than the opportunity comes and you are not prepared. So the P in practice is preparation. And the truth is this: you must be preparing every single day. Remember when I always tell us that opportunity don't come but once, it comes every day. The day you take advantage of opportunity, it becomes your once. Now, how would you spot opportunity if you don't prepare? How would you know that the opportunity has come if you are not preparing? So the P in practice is preparation. So let's say you want to be a public speaker and you are preparing, doing your presentations before the mirror. You are preparing. You've not gotten any invitation to speak, but you're preparing. You're talking to the mirror. You're practicing like you're before the audience. You are preparing. What are you doing? You are practicing. The day the opportunity will come for you to just say something for 5 minutes, you blow the audience away. Why? Because you have been preparing. See, guys, one of the things that practice does for a person is that practice helps the person to activate preparation mood. Say that again. Practice helps a person to activate preparation mood. So you are not waiting for the opportunity to come before you start to prepare. You've heard people say that you don't prepare for the battle in the battle. You prepare for the battle before the battle begins. That's the same thing about practice. The P in practice is preparation. And if you take yourself seriously, trust me, you would realize that every day is another opportunity for preparation. Every single day. Every single day is another opportunity for preparation. Right? Now, the R in practice is responsibility. Now, why is this a responsibility? Because nobody is to blame when you don't practice. Nobody. You can't blame your village people, your family members, your background, your economy. You can't blame any of those things when you don't practice. Nobody is to blame when you don't practice. So practice is your responsibility. The arrow in practice is responsibility, which means I'm taking responsibility for my preparation. I'm taking responsibility. I know one of the signs of maturity is how you take responsibility. So for your preparation, for the place that you want to go to, you must take responsibility for your preparation. So the R in practice is responsibility. So when you see somebody who's practicing, it shows that that person has taken responsibility for their life, for their growth, for their journey. That's why they are practicing. Because they know who they are going to become is tied to what they are practicing now. So they take responsibility. And you know, the beautiful thing about this, which I'm going to share with us, is the fact that whether you are doing it intentionally or unintentionally, every day you are practicing something. Every single day you are practicing something. Whether you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, You are practicing something every single day. And we're going to get to that very soon. Right? So the R in practice is responsibility. And guess what? The A in practice is ability. Now, the beauty of this is everyone have the ability. Everyone has ability. It's the ability that you put to work, that you practice with, that becomes competence for you. You know, nature's verdict is use or lose. So everyone has ability. So if you use your ability, it becomes capacity, it becomes competence for you. If you don't use the ability, you will lose the ability. So it's use or lose. Practice is helping you to use your ability. It's already in you. So practice is helping you use it. Practice is helping you use it. You're not going to borrow ability. You already have the ability. But as you put it to work, as you work with it, it becomes competence for you because you're practicing. You know, I once read somewhere where somebody said that he was being charged so much for something that the person just did in less than a minute. And the person replied that it took me 10 years to learn how to do this thing in a minute. So you are not paying me for doing it in a minute. You're paying me for the 10 years of putting to use this ability to get to this level of competence. Are you getting this? So you already have the ability, and practice just helps you put that ability to use. Yes, practice helps the person to activate preparation mode. Fantastic, right? Practice helps you to put your ability to use. We all have ability. You were born naked, but you were not born empty. And remember the parable of the talent in Matthew 25, that the master gave them talent according to their ability. So the one who hid his talent did not practice. The others who practiced, they got double of their talent. The one who was given 5 got 5 more. The one who was given 2 got 2 more. They used their ability. They practiced. The C in practice is consistency. Now, the beauty of practice is that as you keep practicing, you are getting consistency. Now, consistency has a way it helps you to align yourself to whatever it is you're practicing, that it now becomes second nature for you because you have been consistent with it. You know, when we talk about competence, I often tell us that there are 4 stages of competence. There's the unconscious incompetence, there's the conscious incompetence, and then there is the conscious competence, and then there's the unconscious competence. Now, all of this happens for you through consistency. Through consistency. Practice helps you to attain the level of consistency, which means you are doing it repeatedly. Remember our definition of practice. We said that practice is the act of doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. The act of doing something repeatedly till you attain mastery. That is consistency. So when you practice, you're doing it over and over and over and over till you attain mastery. It's called rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat till you attain mastery. Right? So that's consistency there. So you're not just showing up one day and then don't show up again for another 5 days. No. You're showing up every day. Consistency every day. And I wrote recently that consistency over intensity. It's consistency over intensity. And people who want to show up one day and try to do everything in one day intensity. But as you're doing it every day, you're gaining consistency and you're gaining more grounds than those who want to do it one day with much intensity. But do it every day with consistency. I'll say that again. It is best to do it every day with consistency than to do it one day with intensity. And practice is about consistency. The C in practice is consistency. All right? And then the T in practice is time. Every true practice takes time. Remember my saying that the master was once a disaster that never stopped practicing. Every master was once a disaster that never stopped practicing. Why? Because practice takes time. Practice takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens overnight. Overnight. Because it takes time. You know, you don't just go from being a baby to start running. From a baby, you crawl. And then you learn to stand. And then you learn to walk before you learn to run. All of this takes time. And practice, true practice, takes time. It takes time. Right? Usain Bolt will say that he practiced for 4 years for the Olympics to run for 9.8 seconds. He practiced for 4 years to run 9.8 seconds. Practice takes time. So you cheat yourself of time when you don't practice. Now, the thing also is this: whether you practice or you don't practice, time will pass. So you must make the most of time when you practice, because you don't practice or you practice, time waits for no one. Time will pass by. Time will pass by. So you see, when someone is learning a skill and you're not learning anything, time will pass by. Over time, the person will now become skilled. You will still remain unskilled. Because practice takes time. No practice happens overnight. It takes time. Right? And then the I in practice is intentionality. With every practice, there must be intentionality. You do it with intentionality, which means you focus on a particular thing at a particular time with intentionality. You're not trying to be everywhere or do everything. You focus on what you are practicing with intentionality. The I in practice is intentionality. And then the C, the other C in practice, is character. You know, practice helps to build character. As you practice, your character is being forged. Your character is being forged. Practice helps to build character. And in that character, you have gained doggedness, grit, resilience, right? You have gained attention to detail. Practice helps character. The C in practice is character. And then the E in practice is excellence. With every time you practice, guess what? You are refining yourself and you are getting more excellent at what you do. So practice gives you excellence. You know, everyone will do badly the first time. Everyone will do badly the first time, which means You don't necessarily give your best the first time you try out a thing. But as you practice, you get to that level of excellence. Everyone does poorly the first time. But with practice, you attain the level of excellence. So, guys, this is what practice is all about. It's about preparation, it's about responsibility, it's about your ability, it's about consistency, it's about time, it's about intentionality, it's about character, and it's about excellence. Right? This is what practice is about. Yeah, every practice takes time. So true. Every practice takes time. And also, every master was once a disaster that never stopped practicing. Thank you so much for those comments, Sunshine. Thank you so very much. We're grateful. Now, let's look at some areas of practice that I feel we really need to have an understanding of. Right? So, guys, if you're watching this right now, drop a comment of the areas that is really, really getting to you, right? And feel free to drop your questions if you have any questions you want to ask. Feel free to drop your questions in the comment section, and we'll also take your questions as we go along on this conversation, right? Now, everybody is involved in practice. Now, we're going to break this down now so you begin to follow us closely. Everybody is involved in practice. From the man who is selling in his kiosks, to the woman who's selling in a boutique, to the girl who's going to class, to the guy who's doing his business online. Everybody is involved in practice. Everybody. Everybody is involved in practice in one way or another. Now, there is something that you do daily. In your life right now, there's something you do every day. Who can give me some examples of things you do every day? Every day you wake up in the morning, you take your bath, you brush your teeth, you take your breakfast. There's something you do every day. Now, that thing you do every day, that is something that you practice. I'll say that again. That thing that you do every day, that is something that you practice. Now, I guess that's just turn on a light bulb in your head. Whatever it is you do every day, that thing is something that you practice. Let that sink in for a minute. If you gossip every day, that's what you practice. If you pray every day, that's what you practice. If you study your Bible every day, that's what you practice. If you harbor unforgiveness every day, that is what you practice. Everything that you do daily is something that you practice. Everything you do daily is something that you practice. Now, this is the part that will come as a shock to a lot of people. And I hope that you're ready for this. You have your shock absorber ready for this. Practice is amoral. Practice is amoral. By that, I mean practice is neither good nor evil. It depends on the person practicing. Practice is amoral. It is neither good nor evil. It only depends on the person practicing. That's what it depends on. So whatever you're practicing, whether it's good or it's evil, depends on you. So it is not the practice in itself that is evil or that is good. It is the person who is practicing that is evil or that is good. So practice in itself is amoral. is neither good nor evil. It depends on the person that is practicing. And you see, whatever you practice, you will get good at. I'll take that again. Whatever you practice, you will get good at. Whatever you practice. You practice lying, you get good at lying. You practice integrity and honesty, you get good at integrity and honesty. Whatever you practice, you will get good at. And that's why I told you earlier that practice is amoral. It depends on the one practicing. So whatever it is that you practice, good, evil, whatever it is you practice, you will get good at it. You know, there are some people who tell lies. You don't even need to think about the lies. It just flows naturally. They've gotten good at lying through practice. Have you met such people? They lie like it's second nature to them already. They don't even think about the lie. It just flows. Why? They practice lying so much, they have gotten good at lying. In fact, when they greet you good morning, you actually need to check the time if it's actually morning. That's how good they have become with lying. So whatever it is you practice, you become good at. Now, I love this question, and I'll take this question for a bit. Can there be practice without intentionality? Yes. Yes. That's why practice demands you become intentional. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you see people do a particular thing, and then you're beginning to have the desire to do that thing. Now, even if that thing was not something you had desired before, because of the pressure of people around you doing it, you now start to desire that thing. Now, that thing was not intentional for you, but because of the pressure, you find yourself part of that thing. Now, you see yourself practicing that thing that you did not want to practice before. That's why scripture said about Lot, that Lot, dwelling in the midst of the people of Sodom, in seeing and hearing of what they were doing, vexed his righteous soul to compromise. That's why you must be careful of the environment you put yourself. Because if you are not careful, you will not know when you start to practice the things you say you will never do. Because of the environment you find yourself. So yes, people can practice without intentionality. That's why you have to be intentional about what you're practicing. Because you are picking up things from people every day. And you will not even know when you start to practice those things. Let me give you another example. When you see young kids using swear words, do you ever think that anyone sat them down to teach them those swear words? No. By observation. They too start to practice saying those things. You dey craze, you dey mad, Ogun go kill you. They are practicing it without intentionality. But real practice demands intentionality. And that's why I told you earlier that whether you pay attention to it or not, everybody is practicing something. Everybody is involved in practice. That's why you have to pay attention to what it is that you're practicing. How do people get hooked? Let me not even go further. How do people get hooked in pornography, masturbation, and all of those addictions? We're going to get there soon. So follow us closely. Thank you so much for that question. Now, whatever you practice, you get good at. Whatever it is you practice, you will get good at. Whatever it is you practice, you will get good at. Now, there are three things you must practice. Three things I've discovered that you must practice, which is very important for you, right? Number one, you must practice your learning. Whatever it is you are learning, you must practice it. You must practice your learning. Whatever it is you are learning, you must practice it. You must practice your learning. And that's why I tell people that the proof of any learning is practice. So you must practice your learning. Whatever you're learning, you must practice it. If you are not practicing it, it's a sign that you never truly learned it. Remember those days where you were in primary school, right? I always like to use primary school because that was when learning was fun for a lot of people. And when you get into secondary school, it becomes a bore, right? It becomes boring. But in primary school, learning was fun. The moment you are taught anything in primary school, you go back to practice it. You go back to practice, you make a sound out of it, you play game with it, you go back to practice it. And that's why you can still remember some of the recitations you learned in primary school. And the ones you are even taught in university or the ones you learned in university, you can't even remember. Why? Because you practiced your learning while in primary school. They told you, oh, this was the eye. They drew eye for you. You went back to draw eye again for yourself. You practiced your learning. It became a part of you. So three things you must do. Three things you must practice. Number one, you must practice your learning. Number two, you must practice loving. You see, we were created to love, but then we were taught to hate. I'll say that again. We were created to love, but then we were taught to hate. Now, let me make this clear for you. You see people talk about racism, tribalism. All of those things were taught. No one is born a racist. Racism is taught and learned. You learned racism. You were taught racism. No one is born a racist or a tribalist. No. All of those things are taught and learned. So you must also practice loving because you were born to love, but you were taught to hate. Love is something that should come naturally for you. But because you have been taught hate, now you must practice loving. Otherwise, you find yourself incapable of loving, but very capable of hating because that's what you have practiced. So the second thing you must practice is that you must practice loving. Yes, people will give you reasons to not love them. You must practice loving for your own good. Because even Jesus said, pray for those who despitefully use you. He says, if you only love those who love you, what difference are you from the publicans? What difference are you? But love those who don't love you. Pray for those who despitefully use you. That is you practicing loving. You must practice loving. And the third thing you must practice forgiving. You must practice forgiving. And I know in loving, you are also practicing generosity. You're also practicing giving as you are loving, because you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. So in practicing loving, you're also practicing giving, because they don't deserve it, but you're giving. And it doesn't make you a fool. It just only shows that you are full. Hey, yeah. I love that. It doesn't make you a fool. It just only shows that you are full. So that's why you are loving. And then the third thing you must practice, you practice forgiving. And I often tell people this, that people don't need to apologize for you to forgive them. People don't need to apologize for you to forgive them. So you practice forgiving. You practice forgiving. So these are three important things that you must practice. Number one, you're learning. Number two, loving. And number three, forgiving. Right? Now, there are two things about practice that you must know. Two things about practice. And this is really going to open your mind to some realities. Two things about practice. Number one, at one extreme of practice is obsession. At a very, very one end extreme of practice is obsession. At the other end of practice is addiction. Now you must be mindful of these two ends. At one end of practice is obsession. You become obsessed with practice. And another end of practice is addiction. You become addicted to it. So you must be mindful of these two ends. So it's always best you stay in the middle, because at the far end, one side is obsession. At the far end, on another side, is addiction. So you must stay in the middle with your practice, so you don't get to become obsessed or you don't get to become addicted because you practice. Have you met people who are obsessed with their practice? Very obsessed with it. Or have you met people who are addicted to their practice? You must be sane with your practice. Not an obsession, not an addiction, but have sanity with your practice. The one goal of practice is better. Remember the rhyme back in the day? Good, better, best. I will never rest until my good is better and my better best. Remember that rhyme? Yes. Good, better, best. I will never rest until my good is better and my better best. The one goal of practice is better. Better, which means you get better every day. You know, like scripture says, the path of the just is as a shining light that shines brighter and brighter every day. The one goal of practice is better. Whatever you do today, you do better tomorrow. Whatever you do tomorrow, you do better again. That's the goal of practice. You get better. Right? Now, I love this question that's been asked. The question says, everyone has the ability. Everyone has ability. How can someone discover their ability? Beautiful question. How can someone discover their ability? Now, one of the ways you discover your ability is practice. There are things that come naturally to you. As you start to practice, you begin to see that ability come to the fore. Practice. Right? Everyone has ability, yes. How does someone discover the ability? It's through practice. You put yourself in the environment where you can practice. Then you start to discover some things about yourself you did not know was there or existed. Through practice. You know, one of the professions people would say they hate and they would never want to be part of is the profession of selling, salespeople, right? People hate that profession. But you know the truth about life? All of us are in the selling profession. We are all selling. But as you start to practice selling, you discover that you are good with selling. I know some people say, no matter what happens, I never want to sell. It's okay. But in you lie the ability to be able to sell. You just have not put it to work. So to discover your ability is to practice. As you practice, you start to see what works, you start to see what does not work, and you start to see what you can rework because you practice. Thank you for that question. Now, practice does something to you, right? Practice does something to you. Number one, practice creates a new neural pathway in your brain. Now, as you practice something, you begin to form new neural pathway in your brain. Your brain begins to associate with something that you practice. It creates a new neural pathway in your brain. That's why it now becomes an unconscious competence. You don't think about it anymore. You just do it because there's a new neural pathway that has been created in your brain through practice. You know, the scripture tells us that strong meat are those who have come of age, who through reason of use have their senses exercised to discern between good and evil. Through reason of use. Right? You see that in Hebrews chapter 5, right? Through reason of use, they have their senses exercised to discern between good and evil. You see, practice creates a new neural pathway in your brain. Another thing you must understand is that practice builds stamina and grit. Practice builds stamina and grit. As you practice, you are developing stamina. As you practice, you are developing stamina. You are developing grit as you practice. What you did not know you could do, you suddenly realize that it is easy peasy thanks to practice. So, let's say for instance, you say you want to work out and you start to skip or do sit up, right? If you start to skip, for instance, the first day you skip 50 times, it will be like you have done something so difficult. But as you continue to practice, 50 becomes the least you can ever do. Why? You have now built stamina. You have now built grit because of practice. The third thing that practice will do for you is that practice will refine your skill to attain excellence and mastery. Practice will refine your skill. So you have a skill, practice would help you refine it till you attain excellence and mastery. Practice helps you refine your skill till you attain excellence and mastery. So those are the three things that practice would help you do. Now let me tell you this, right? If everything in life is learned, then everything in life is practiced. I want you to let that to sink in for a bit. If everything in life is learned, then everything in life is practiced. Like they say, argue with your keypads. If everything in life is learned, which means you learn everything, which means everything in life is practiced. Now, there are some things that people practice that they don't even know they practice. I'll give you a few, so this would help you. There are some things that people practice that they don't even know that they practice. Number one, people practice their fears. You know, when Job said that the things that I fear the most have happened to me. People practice their fears. Oh, I will not be able to do this. Oh, I will fail in this. They practice their fears. Look around you. Listen to people's conversation. You can literally tell that these ones, they are practicing their fears. Number two, people practice lies. People practice lies. Either they want to feel belong or they want to just give an impression of themselves that they are not. They practice lies. It's of no need, it's of no use to lie. Just say the truth. But there are people that practice lies. And that should not be you. Another thing that people practice is unfaithfulness. I literally hear somebody say that, oh, nobody can be truly faithful. It just rings a bell because a lot of people practice unfaithfulness. They practice it. And I often tell people that cheating doesn't start with sex. Cheating starts with text. I'd like you to write that down. Cheating does not start with sex. Cheating starts with text. Because people practice unfaithfulness. You see, when you catch yourself deleting messages on your phone, that's cheating already. It's just starting. When you put that mode where it gets to disappear after 24 hours, that's cheating right there. When you start to password everything in your device, that's cheating right there. That's you practicing unfaithfulness. What are you hiding? Like, what are you hiding? So these are some things that people don't even know they are practicing. Practicing their fears, they're practicing lies, they're practicing unfaithfulness. You see, interestingly, every day is an opportunity to practice. Every single day. Every single day is an opportunity to practice. Now, the question now is, what are you practicing every day? What are you practicing every day? Because every day is an opportunity for you to practice. So what are you practicing every day? You see, practice brings about two things. It brings about change. It brings about transformation. There's something that changes when you practice. There's something you transform into when you practice. You will see these two things happen when you practice. There will be change. There will be transformation when you practice. There will be change. There will be transformation when you practice. You see, the proof of practice is result. You heard me said earlier that the proof of learning is practice. And the proof of practice is result. The proof of practice is result. What shows that you're truly practicing is result. Let's say you want to have summer body and you start hitting the gym from January. By the time summer arrives in June, you will see the results in your body. The proof of practice is result. And like I already told you, practice makes you better. And what you practice becomes better. See, practice does two things. First, it works on you, and then it works on the thing you practice. Practice makes you better, and then what you practice better. Did you get that? Practice makes you better, and then what you practice better. It first works on you, and then it works on the thing that you're practicing. But I must not also fail to tell you the demands of practice. Practice has its demands, right? There are demands of practice. Practice demands discipline. There's no one who will practice that would not need discipline. Practice demands discipline because while others are going to chill and relax, practice will make you have the discipline to keep practicing. So practice demands discipline. Number one. Practice demands diligence. You can't practice and be haphazard. You can't practice and not pay attention to detail. Practice will demand diligence from you. And then practice will demand depth. Because as you practice, you're gaining depth. And you always know this, that the higher you want to go, the deeper you must first go. Remember the story of the Chinese bamboo that grows 90 feet on the 5th week of 5 years. It means for the first 5 years, there's no sign of growth whatsoever. But the 5th week of the 5 years, it grows 90 feet. Why? For the 5 years and 5 weeks, it was going down in its roots. So practice will demand discipline, diligence, and depth. The one who truly practices, you see that that person has depth. The person is not on the surface, has depth. The person is diligent, and the person has discipline. These are the demands of practice. And you must understand this. You are not truly practicing if you are not investing time and consistency. I'll say that again. You are not truly practicing if you are not investing time and consistency. You are not truly practicing. If you're not investing time and consistency, you are not truly practicing. Because what shows you are practicing is the time you put into it and the consistency with which you do it. That shows that you're truly practicing. And you see, it's practice that makes you a practitioner. You know what? One of the things we tell the people who we work with, we call them upgrade mastery practitioners, because you practice, so you're a practitioner. In the medical field, they are called medical practitioners. In the legal field, they are called legal practitioners. In the upgrade field, they are called upgrade mastery practitioners because they practice. That's why they are called practitioners, because they practice. Because they practice. You see, Scripture tells us, greater works shall you do. Right? Greater works. Now, greater works is practice dependent. I want you to let that sink in. Greater works is practice dependent. You can do greater works as you practice. As you practice. You say, but how is that possible? Let me give you an example with Peter. Right? You know, there was a point Peter would pray for the sick and they will be healed. He would pray for the sick and they will be healed. Right? There was another point. Peter would pray for the sick and then he would still have to help the sick to get up. Remember the man by the beautiful gate in Acts chapter 3, when Peter said, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have give I unto thee. Now, after praying for the man, in the name of Jesus, rise up and walk, Peter had to literally lift him up. And then scripture says that strength came to the man's feet. Now, we're talking about practice leads you to greater works, right? Practice, greater works is practice dependent. At one stage, Peter will pray for the sick, they'll be healed. At another stage, Peter will pray for the sick and then still help them to get up. But then at another stage, Peter's shadow was healing the sick. Kabaya! Hey! At another stage, at greater works, which is practice dependent, Peter's shadow was healing the sick. Peter's shadow was healing the sick. See, guys, the more you practice, the more greater works you see. The more you practice. I mean, can this just be what's missing in a lot of people's life? Because they are learning, but they are not practicing. So that's why they are not seeing any results. People are bombarded with so many information left, right, and center, but they are not seeing the result that that information should give because they are not practicing. It is practice that transforms the information. Practice takes information and makes it transformation for you. Do you get that? Practice takes information and makes it transformation for you because you practice. So could it be that the reason we are not seeing so many results as we should see is because people are not practicing as they should? Because the conversion of information to transformation takes place with practice. I'll say that again. The conversion of information to transformation takes place with practice. It takes place with practice. So you see, practice boosts two key aspects of your life. Practice boosts your consciousness and your awareness. We've had conversations on those areas, on consciousness and awareness. My friend Emmanuel has podcasts on consciousness and awareness, which, by the way, shout out to Emmanuel. His podcast just clocked 10 million plays. Shout out to the Let's Talk podcast with Emmanuel. They're doing phenomenal well, right? Phenomenally in what you're doing. So if you're not listening to Let's Talk podcast, go on Wow FM on the Google Play Store. It's not on iOS yet, but on Google Play Store, look for Wow FM. And then when you download the Wow FM, go and look for Let's Talk Podcast LTP. Let's Talk Podcast. And you see the 107 episodes they've done so far. Right? Now, practice boosts two key aspects of your life: your consciousness and your awareness. As you practice, you become more conscious. As you practice, you become more aware. Practice boosts your consciousness and your awareness. Practice. It boosts your consciousness and your awareness. Practice. You see, because David practiced, David was conscious and aware of who he was. So David practiced with the lion and the bear before he practiced with Goliath also. Practice. Joseph practiced with the butler and the baker before he also practiced with Pharaoh in interpreting of dreams. Because did you notice that it was the same pattern of dreams that the butler and the baker had that Pharaoh also had? So because of practice, Joseph already knew what the answer was. You notice that Joseph did not ask them, give me time, let me go and ask God. Because he had already practiced. He already knew what it was. See, guys, let me tell you this, and this will shock you. If you're not practicing, someone else is practicing. And soon, you both would meet. And you can already predict what the outcome would be. I'll say that again. If you are not practicing, someone else is practicing. And someday, soon enough, you both will meet. And when you meet, you can already predict what the outcome will be. So I encourage you to go and start practicing. Go and start practicing. You see, when you're not practicing, someone else is practicing. And soon enough, both of you would meet. and you can predict what the outcome will be. But I want to leave you with these final words, right, as we begin to wrap this up. Is your practice in line with who you are becoming, or moving you away from who you are becoming? I want you to sit on that question. Is your practice in line with who you are becoming, or is your practice moving you away from who you are becoming? Guys, this is the much that we can take on this conversation on practice. If you have any questions, do want to drop it as a comment and we will gladly take your questions. If you have any question, do well to drop it as a comment and we'll gladly take your question. And also feel free to let us know where you're watching us from. Right? Let us know where you're watching us from in the comment section. Let us know where you're watching us from so we can know where most of our audience are coming in from. Thank you so very much for being here. And like we always tell you on this conversation, in this new week, 3 things will happen to you. 3 things will happen for you. Number 1, increased voice of God. Number 2, open heavens over your life. And number 3, more angelic activities in all that you do. Yes, in this new week. Get ready for that. And remember, like we always tell you, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. So we encourage you to leave good behind so that you can upgrade. And one way to upgrade is that you practice. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.